This is what if that I wanted to catch up on. This is what if Deku was Loki part, I think 5? Yeah. Part 3. Sorry guys, I meant part 3. Yeah, part 3. So yeah. So sorry guys. So guys, this is what if Deku was Loki part 3. So yeah. So this is what if Deku was Loki part 3. And let's get started. So I last left off for Deku, after the whole entire sports festival. Had his whole entire, went back to his house after the whole entire, sports festival. So Deku goes back to, his house after, hooking up with Momo. And pretty much Deku goes back to, basically, whatchamacallit, school the next day. So they get told about, what their hero names are gonna be, and Deku just says, his Asgardian name, Loki. Now Deku is called Deku in real life. Well, Deku did use his other Asgardian name, so I don't really remember what name he said. But yeah, Deku's gonna be using, his Asgardian name, Loki, as his, sorry guys, my dog, man. Sorry guys. So yeah, this is what if Deku was, pretty much, Deku basically took his hero name and said it was, Loki. So Deku used his Asgardian name for his hero name. After that, everybody, got ready for their, pretty much, whatchamacallit, hero sponsorships, or, hero course. So Deku was sponsored by pretty much a shady looking, type of team. They called the Avengers. They're American. They're a very famous American hero company and team, pretty much featuring the Avengers. The original OG Avengers like Ant-Man and Thor, Captain America, and Hulk, and Iron Man. Pretty much like that. Every Avenger. So pretty much Deku went on a little trip down to America for his sponsorship. So Deku went to a little trip to America, and he got to America and pretty much walked into Avengers Tower, saying that he was Loki, he was Deku, Ziku Midoriya, Loki, all of that stuff. So they get started, and Deku pretty much walks in there. Deku starts walking, and he walks in there, and he sees that it's the Avengers. Deku walks in there, and he sees Iron Man. Iron Man greets Deku and pretty much says, "What's up, Zukumidori?" Now Deku already knows English, but he did learn, Japanese when he went down to, Japan. But yeah, Deku, speaks back and pretty much, starts having a conversation with Tony. Tony explains to Deku that you're gonna be, trained into, combat and physical prowess and how to, pretty much handle situations if they brought to your attention and all that jazz. So pretty much Deku goes to, inside of the building, and he gets created a dorm so he can, sleep after his training. So Deku gets a dorm right next to Vision, and his left side is Vision and his right side it's War Machine. So Deku, has a dorm right between War Machine and Vision. And pretty much Iron Man says, so after your internship, after, UA, you do have a choice to join the Avengers if you want to. So guys, yeah, so Deku, agrees and pretty much, walks on. Deku says that, the Avengers feel familiar. I have some sort of, I think my brother talked about this once. Deku is walking down the street, walking down, the hallway, and he sees his brother. Deku sees Thor, his brother. Deku immediately tries to, shift back and run out of the building, but he gets stopped by Tony, and Tony says, do you know Thor?" And Deku says, "Yeah." And Thor looks behind him, and he sees Deku. Thor runs over to Deku and says, "Father has been looking for you. I thought you were dead." And Deku says, "Yeah, whatever." Thor, Thor explains that, Tony talked about, letting you into the Avengers and blah blah blah. So yeah, Deku, said, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, awesome." And pretty much Thor grabs Deku by the shoulders, making sure he can't, use any illusions on Thor, and pretty much says, So, brother, how is life been treating you? I know you pretty much, went into UA, and all that other jazz. Deku says, yeah, well, I went to UA. And pretty much Thor explains about, the Avengers and how they went up to certain, villains, Ultron, the Chitauri, all that other stuff. Deku says, I heard about the Chitauri. Now, in this universe, guys, in this universe, the Chitauri, pretty much, if I didn't mention this last time, I think I mentioned this last time. Deku, whatchamacallit, I think I mentioned this last time. Deku is a doppelganger, um, aka, the original OG Thor from the MCU. So pretty much, this version of Loki has long hair and black hair, and pretty much has the same build as, Loki from the comic books. The same outfit as well. But Deku, on the other hand, just looks like Deku. He has the same haircut as Deku, but he has, black hair. So Deku says, so he was a doppelganger called Loki that fled the Chitauri, I think. It was on the news. Look, Thor says, yeah, he was an Asgardian too. He said that he was a frost giant. Now, this universe, I think I told you guys that Deku was the brother of Loki, and pretty much Odin took both the children, but the other Loki, turned out I was Loki, but Deku turned out is, okay Loki. So pretty much Deku, starts talking to his brother, and eventually, they get started on their training. Deku's trained in combat and skills. Deku's also trained to, harness, his powers more physically, more, faster. Deku is able to, make illusions faster and better, and make them more, physical, almost making them clone-like. But if they're, punched, they do, immediately go away. So yeah, so Deku pretty much trains in, physical prowess, how to run faster. Pretty much Deku gets a pretty good build. Deku also, learns how to control his power, his cryokinesis, his ice manipulation, his ice creation. And Deku, gets a pretty good, gets a lot of good scores. Deku gets really good, fighting skills and combat training. Deku also finds out how to, turn water into ice. Deku grabs a water bottle. He makes a water, balloon and pretty much throws it. And while he throws it, he turns a piece of it into ice and throwing it at his brother, making the ice side hit his brother, while the water side falls on top of his brother while the bubble or the pretty much thing pops, and the cold water splashes all around him. It's pretty much a cool trick. But yeah, Deku gets a pretty good score, and Deku also finds out he can turn the pretty much moisture in the air into ice. So Deku pretty much can make ice stairs, kind of like Iceman does with his ice, his whole entire ice slides. So Deku gets a pretty good score and stamina wise, and gets ready. So Deku gets ready, and Deku is, told by Tony that they're doing 1v1s against the Avengers. Now, Deku has only been introduced to Tony, Thor, and also he has been introduced by Hulk and Black Panther. But Deku hasn't met Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, or any of the other Avengers, or Ant-Man. So Deku, is kind of, confused, but also, very nervous. So Deku goes up against these, pro heroes, and Deku is walking down the street while it bumps into Kirishima. He's walking down the, building, and he bumps into Kirishima. Kirishima says, hey, Deku, and pretty much Kirishima explains to Deku that I got an internship by, the Avengers Tower too. The Deku says, okay, and pretty much, starts talking to each other. They get to a pretty good, point, and Kirishima says, yeah, they put me to a different dorm. I haven't seen you, like, the 2 days we were here. So Deku and Kirishima get ready, and pretty much they go up to 1v1s, all up against the Avengers. Deku goes up against Tony first, and pretty much they start. So Tony throws a huge blast of, repulsors towards Deku. Deku dodges. Tony starts talking about how I'm not going to hold back anything, kid, and you better give me your all. Deku starts sprinting back and forth, dodging all of Tony's blast effects and dodges, his blast and dodges. And pretty much Deku gets a pretty good, hit in left and right, denting Tony's suit. Tony switches out his suit with his Iron Man 4 suit, Iron Man 3 suit, and starts, throwing punches left and right to Deku. Deku dodges some of them, grabbing, Tony's, the bill of his outfit, or like a, what was it? It was like some sort of, gap in the arm area. Deku grabbed and cupped his fingers into the grip, or like the, pretty much gap, and chucked Tony right in the ground. Deku, starts taking out ice crystals, trying to jab and break the suit, getting pretty much a good score into it, scratching it sometimes. Now, Iron Man, doesn't, a whole entire, he pulls a Infinity War and grabs Deku's daggers and stabs him in the leg. Deku falls onto the ground, and Tony blasts himself up into the ground, and pretty much goes for a drop kick towards Deku, but Deku disappears. Tony's confused, and Tony gets hit by a huge ice sledge, or like a huge ice board right upside the head, getting knocked the hell out. Deku pretty much, used the illusion spell, using all of his power to try to make it as physical as possible, making blood splatter and everything, and pretty much tried to, make it look like it was actually him there. And pretty much Deku gets a pretty good score. He goes up against, he wins that whole entire, Iron Man look. Now we get back to Kirishima, and Kirishima goes up against Black Widow. Obviously, Kirishima loses, and not because, he's getting overpowered, just because, he ain't skilled in all the combat training of, Black Widow. But Black Widow does, suffer some cut wounds because Kirishima's pretty, jagged, and Kirishima also was trained by, Hawkeye in, combat training, and also he was trained by Hulk to, withstand huge blows to the face, or like huge blows anywhere, like if Thor hit him with a hammer, Kirishima will probably get back up. Like Hulk trained him to, harness his powers to keep his unbreakable mode up and running as long as possible. So Thor and Hulk went back to back, punching Kirishima right in the stomach while making Kirishima harden his stomach as hard as possible. And pretty much they made it as clear as possible that they weren't gonna hold anything back, and they would hit him as hard as fucking possible, even rupturing some internal organs. So yeah, Deku and Kirishima were pretty, upgraded. So Kirishima trains harder and harder, and pretty much gets a pretty good score in. And he does lose against Black Widow, but we switch back to Deku, going up against Black Panther. Black Panther runs towards Deku. Deku dodges and grabs Black Panther's ears and his outfit, but Black Panther easily slips out of it, grabs Deku's neck, and drop kicks him straight to the ground, and pretty much claws him in the chest. And pretty much, Kirishima sees this in the, the bench, and says, "Whoa!" And pretty much Black Panther starts, fist fighting Deku, going back and forth, having a full on, pretty much Black Widow and Ant-Man scene Civil War type of fight. Like their hands going everywhere, that they're just fighting really fast. Deku's going back and forth, and eventually Deku, loses his balance and gets pushed down to the ground. Deku gets drop kicked by Black Panther in the face and gets knocked out. Deku loses, but he goes up against Hawkeye the next match. So Deku goes up against Hawkeye. The next match, and pretty much he runs towards Hawkeye with full speed. Hawkeye dodges, throwing an arrow straight for Deku, and Deku dodges it with, ease. Deku throws another, ice dagger towards Hawkeye. Hawkeye shoots another arrow, deflecting the ice dagger, and grabs, Deku by the neck and drop kicks him down to the ground, and about to, go for the finishing blow, but Deku grabs his bow, breaks it, and pretty much goes in his Frost Giant form, grabbing Hawkeye from the neck and chucking him out of the ring, knocking him out cold. Pretty much Deku, is pretty strong. And Deku goes up against, sorry guys, I'm going back to Kirishima. Kirishima goes up against, Kirishima goes up against Hulk, and obviously he loses because Kirishima did, last a couple, 5 or 10 minutes, depending on how Kirishima fought. Pretty much he, lasted about 10 minutes, but he gets bodied by Hulk because Hulk throws about 5 punches and Kirishima knocked out already. So yeah, Kirishima did last longer than the other interns that were shown in the Avengers Tower. So yeah, Kirishima did have a pretty good run, but he still lost. And Deku goes up against Thor, the main attraction. So Deku gets ready and pretty much goes in his Frost Giant form. Deku goes in his ice form, his Frost Giant form, and pretty much, takes off his shirt and gets ready. Deku opens, gets some ice shards out there and starts throwing ice shards left and right towards, Thor. Thor starts blocking them with a hammer left and right, hitting them with pretty much, lightning back and forth. Deku gets electrocuted sometimes, getting pushed back and forth, but Deku gets a pretty good, stamina and grabs a ice shard that he made earlier and throws it right at, Thor. Deku makes an ice wall around him. Thor breaks through it and grabs, nothing while he thinks Deku is. Deku comes up behind, Thor and takes out a real dagger and stabs Thor right in the back. Thor falls to the ground bleeding, and Deku grabs Thor by the throat and starts trying to choke him out. The Avengers are about to, jump in, but Kirishima says, wait, no. And pretty much Thor summons, a bunch of lightning on top of him, electrocuting Deku. Deku falls down to the ground and makes a huge... Before he falls to the ground, he makes a huge... I mean, like a hurricane level, like breaking the whole entire, match setup. And now the match setup that they were making, like how they're fighting, they have an arena kind of like the sports festival arena in the bottom of the Avengers Tower. Pretty much freezing everything around him, almost killing Kirishima because Kirishima doesn't have enough, strength to withstand that ice. So pretty much a couple of the Avengers get frostbite. They do, they're able to recover from it, and pretty much Deku and Thor get a draw. But yeah, after that, Deku is going to the infirmary. Thor's going to the infirmary. Everybody goes to the infirmary. They get checked up on, and pretty much they get pretty, they don't get hurt too seriously. They say Deku is a pretty strong ally. He can be a really good Avenger someday. So Deku, gets ready and pretty much gets ready to go back to UA, because after that whole time, 1v1 situation, that was the last day before they had to go back to UA after the whole entire, pretty much, entrance exam. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this, because this is my first what if that I actually, included the Avengers. So guys, see you guys later. I hope you like this what if, because I just wanted to revisit this one. And I will be uploading What If Deku Was a Ninja Turtle Part 3. I also will be uploading What If Deku Was Deadpool Part 4. And I also will be uploading What If Deku Was Santa's Son Part Santa's Son Part 2. But guys, please tell me ask me what ship should I do, because I already shipped Deku with Ochaku already. But guys, if you want me to ship Deku with anybody else other than Ochaku, just go in the comments on this video or on What If Deku Was the Son of Santa Part 1. So guys, see you guys later. Have a blessed day. Bye.